And welcome back to FS Mania for part 2 of our flight. We are in the right now Antilles Islands, and we are at Saba, which is ranked the smallest commercial airport in I think the world. I believe that's accurate according to Wikipedia. And the runway is 1,300 feet long. We have just landed, and we are now going to take a flight over to another extreme airport, Saint Barth or Bartholomew, and it is ranked, I believe, number 3 in the top 10 most extreme airports by the History Channel. So we're going to just fly over there and make a landing, and we'll see how it goes. So we want to go ahead and let's zoom out on our display here so we can see where we're heading, and go ahead and plug in. The identifier for Saint Barth is Tango Foxtrot Foxtrot Juliet. We'll enter that and activate, and there's our course line 068. So we'll be flying to the northeast, and we're showing a distance of 30.6 nautical miles. It won't take very long to get there. We'll go ahead and set that heading up in our heading bug over to 068. Our CDI is set for the GPS, and we'll go ahead and push our altitude back up to 2,000 for cruising over. And let's go ahead and cut on our lights, our strobes, cut on our fuel boost, and we want to bring our condition lever up to full, and we'll just release our brake and taxi out for departure. We're not using air traffic control. There is no control tower at Saba. We'll go ahead and put in our flaps 10 degrees for departure. Even though this runway is only 1,300 feet long, I have confidence that we can get off with room to spare. Now, I'm taxiing this airplane. I try to bring it back into the beta range, the prop back into the beta range, which is sort of the reverse, to keep control of the speed without Okay, we're lined up. Props full. Condition lever's full. Fuel valves are on. Fuel boost is on. We're good to go. Saba traffic. Cessna Caravan 28 Tango Charlie is departing runway 12 Saba. I just made that call sign up. I'm not sure if that was what the tail number is on this plane or not. Sounded like a good one. Okay, power. Set it to takeoff. Brakes released. Airspeed's alive. 40, 50, 60, 70, and up we go. Back on that power just a little bit, get us out of the red, and we can go ahead and raise our flaps at 95 knots, and we'll go ahead and start turning on course, and let's set that prop 1800. I'm using my control F2 key to change the prop pitch just so I can keep my eye on the main flight display here, primary flight display, and I'm not looking down here. And as we approach our cruise altitude, I'm going to go ahead and start trimming our nose down, letting our airspeed build up, And we'll go ahead and set up our autopilot. Altitude select is selected. Heading bug select. And we'll just go ahead and make a left turn over to 060 to intercept our on course heading. Airspeed's coming up. There's our altitude, 2,000. Everything looks good there. So we can cut off our lights, and we can cut off our fuel boost, put that back into normal. Ignition's normal, starter's off, avionics on, everything looks good here. Seatbelt signs are still on. Passengers are all terrified, but they're strapped in. And I'm going to pull back on that power. As you can see, at level flight, we are now in the red. So we don't want to rip a wing off. That would ruin a perfectly good flight. So we got another challenging approach and landing ahead of us here. So let's just go ahead and take a look. Here's our airport. And let me just get my notes and just take a look here at my notes on this airport. This is actually, the name is Gustav III Airport, also known as Saint Barth, Tango Foxtrot Juliet. It's located on the Caribbean island of Saint Bartholomew in the French Antilles. And this airport is ranked by the History Channel as the number 3 in the list of top 10 most extreme airports. The runway is 10 and 28. We'll be landing on 10. The field elevation is 48 feet above sea level. The runway is 640 meters or 2,099 feet long by 18 meters wide, about 60 feet. And so if we're going to be landing on runway 10, we're going to want to see a bearing of about 100 when we're turning inbound. And so what we're going to want to do is come over here and enter the pattern in a right base for this runway, and then make a right turn into the runway. So I'm going to change our heading about 10 degrees to the right. We'll go to about 050. Give us plenty of room. And there's 050. Give us plenty of room to, I can see we're still exceeding our speed, even with our power pulled back. So we're going to bring that power on back. We have 0 wind right now. Outside air temperature is 11 degrees Celsius. Altimeter set on 2992. And I'll try to zoom in here just a little bit. Our distance to Saint Barth is 18.8 nautical miles. I'm going to go ahead and turn us back to the right about 10 degrees to 060. We're 14 miles out, which is pretty good ways. But we'll go ahead now and just pull our power on back and begin a descent down to 1,600 feet, which is the minimum descent altitude until we are established on our approach, which will be visual. Sorta, as you really cannot see this airport until you get right up on it. You'll see what I mean here in just a minute. I'll bring our power on back and get us slowed on up here in the descent into Saint Barth. And we'll go ahead and get our lights back on, and we'll let the passengers know we're going to be landing, hopefully. Okay, so we're at 1,600, bearing into the airport right now is 083. Like I did before, I like to go ahead and draw myself a little line to follow in there. And we're going to go ahead and start bringing our heading on around to the (100). I'm not sure if I said the runway is 10. And this is a good time to, let's go ahead and ditch our autopilot, flight director, and we'll take over manual control. And let's get that first notch of flaps in. Anytime you put the flaps on in this airplane, you do need to give a little bit of forward pressure on the yoke. And Cessnas, it's typical that the when you add flaps that the nose wants to pitch up. So we'll go ahead and just be ready for that by giving some forward pressure on the yoke. The airport, you can see this sort of valley. It's not actually a valley, it's a ridge line, and it dips right here, and we need to fly right through that part of it, the lowest part of it. You can see the bay beyond. And so what we want to do is just continue our descent down, and we want to get ourselves in a position once we cross that little ridge line to be able to push our nose over, fly down a hill to the end of the runway, pull our nose back up, and try to be fairly steady, not to panic and not to scare the passengers to death, but yet to be aggressive enough to get to the down to the runway, nose up, wheels on the ground, prop in reverse, and apply the brakes and get stopped without running off the end of the runway. Once we get in just a little closer, we're actually about 6 miles out now, so we got a ways to go. But once we get in a little bit closer, there's a little plume of smoke that one of the islanders apparently keeps a fire going, and it's actually a pretty good reference to help you find the runway. I'm not making a perfectly straight in approach, so I'm just gonna fly over here to the left a little bit to get lined up better with the runway, so we're not making any crazy maneuvers there at the end. Is that a waterfall right there? I wonder. I'll have to check that out at some point. Not right this minute, but maybe a little bit later. So we're just going to try to square up our pattern, square up our final approach with the runway. Now we'll turn on into that's a little better. Just doing a nice slow descent. In fact, I really want to slow that up a little bit, so I'm just going to add a little power. Pretty happy with my airspeed right now. Although it's going to need to come down some, we're going to need to bleed that off. There's that little plume of smoke I was talking about. You can see it, that little white spot right there. And I'm going to go ahead and push our prop full RPMs. There it is. And so we're about 600 feet now. And I'm able to actually see the end of the runway, not the end we're going to land on, but the other end of it. And we have one notch of flaps in, 20 degrees. Haven't gone to full yet. Do want to get us slowed up here a little bit. So I'm going to raise the nose slightly. Starting to see that runway. And for this last little part here, we're going to more or less fly between these trees. And let's go ahead and get that last notch of flaps in there, pushing down on the nose. The airspeed's coming down, but the nose is going down. And we're just going to fly down this hill. Power is off. Now we'll ease that nose up, 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 up. And brakes in reverse, brakes in reverse. We used a lot of runway there, but we did get her stopped. Good thing for this guy running down the beach, we didn't overrun. It's a beautiful setting here on Saint Bartholomew. Saint Barth's easier. So there's the hill we flew down to get to the end of the airport. We landed a little longer than I'd like to, but hey, again, I think we could walk away without question. So when we get clear of the active, we will cut off our lights, strobes, and right there is a good spot to just stop, and we'll cut those off, leave our landing light, our taxi light on. And we bring this fuel condition lever back down into low idle. And we're just going to taxi over here to a spot, and if we follow that yellow line, it's actually gets us a little too close to that fire truck for comfort, so I'm just going to cut over here and stay on this line. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Saint Barth, Gustav III Airport. And we'll just pause right here. And with that, we will conclude part 2. Part 3 will be our return flight back to St. Martin, Princess Juliana Airport, which we will fly a non-precision VOR approach. It's getting late in the day. The weather right now is good still, but who knows what might happen. We may need that approach. So until then, thanks for watching, and from FS Mania, we'll see you on the next flight. Have a good one.